So it's that time of year. It's getting cold. Today is super windy. And you're like, crap, what am I gonna do to protect my animals? Well, let's talk chickens real quick, because there's a lot of mistakes people make with chickens. People throw heat lamps in their coops. Well, that's an issue. Now we all know the issue, the main issue is it could cause a fire. Chickens produce their eggs based on how much light. That's why during the winter time it slows down, because there's not as much sunlight going on, and so they'll molt and regrow feathers and rest. If you put a heat lamp in here, that's light, so it throws off things and then can make them produce more and not rest. I know what you're thinking. Well, it's cold. I'm cold, so they're cold, right? Wrong. Chicken's body temperature is about 105 to 107 degrees. And not only that, they're covered in feathers. I know, crazy, right? So what do? I mean, like, it's cold out here. Well, I mean, the first thing, you want to make sure they have shelter, okay? You want to make sure they have a way to get away from rain, water, anything like that. So what you can do is you can actually feed them twice a day, okay? That's going to let their bodies start working on breaking down the food and create heat and keep them warm, and give them energy so they can continue to heat their bodies. So what can you feed them? Well, I mean, you can feed them their regular food, if you're feeding them layer feed or whatnot. But I'm feeding mine spent grain that I've been using for a while. Grain actually takes a little bit more energy to break down, so that actually allows them to create more heat in their bodies as they eat and break it down. So these tips are not only for chickens, they can also be done for most of your other livestock as well. If you're feeding like your goats, your pigs, twice a day, it's gonna allow them to have energy to stay warm and be healthy through the colder times. But back to keeping them away from the elements. Well, you want to make sure that your chickens' feet stay dry, because that's the one part on their body that is not covered in feathers. Touches the ground. It also can affect their laying of eggs. Chickens don't like their feet to be wet. So how do you prevent their feet from being wet other than giving them a roof over their head? What you can use is partially broken down wood chips. You don't want to use the fresh stuff, because that's going to be way too green and can cause mold. This stuff's already been kind of composted and broken down just from the weather and everything, so it works way better for deep bedding. Deep bedding method is a great way on multiple levels to help your chickens out, because one, again, keeps their feet from being wet. Also, it could create heat, because as your chickens poop on like your deep bedding, it's going to compost. It's going to break down, and it's going to allow heat to come up. Now, it's not going to be a significant amount of heat, but hey, every little bit helps. Another great deep bedding method is leaves. Leaves are great because they're the last thing to fall off of your trees. Okay, they're going to have a lot of nutrients in those leaves as they break down, and it's going to help build a better compost. So later on, whenever you decide to clean out your chicken coop, you have great compost for your garden. So I hope these little tips helped you in this time of year where it gets really cold and you start to worry about your animals. Now, if you are that worried about your chickens, and maybe you don't have some of the stuff that I mentioned, you can use your heat plates, because it's not going to be light. They're a little bit safer, and you're still going to have a little bit of warmth. So appreciate you hanging out with us. We got some animals to get warm. Catch you in the next one.